Top 10 Most Famous Shipwrecks of All Time. Tragic circumstances have led ships from all around the world to sink throughout history. The ships detailed in this video are historically significant, whether they sank due to storms, human error, or military bloodshed. A unique look at history that has been preserved underwater can be found in Shipwrecks. They also have incredible, frequently sad stories to tell. We will visit some of the most well-known shipwrecks in the world and learn about tales of battle, intrigue, and even riches. Because of their size, age, or even cargo, the most notable shipwrecks frequently hold that rank. However, these shipwrecks frequently featured the sad loss of life in addition to the ship's sinking. Keeping this in mind, it's a good idea to attempt and discover the history of the wreck beforehand and treat wrecks where people died with the respect they deserve if you're ever fortunate enough to visit a shipwreck. The United Nations estimates that there are at least 3 million shipwrecks on the ocean floor, and there has long been a fascination in shipwrecks and the potential wealth they may contain. Here are 10 of the most famous shipwrecks of all time. Number 1. The Black Swan. The Black Swan, also known as the Black Swan Project, is regarded as the largest gold treasure recovery in history. The relics of the Spanish battleship Nuestra Señora de las Mercedes, which sank off the coast of Portugal in 1804, were where the wealth was discovered. The American business Odyssey Marine Exploration stated in 2007 that it had found gold estimated to be worth $500 million. The gold was eventually returned to Spanish authorities in 2012 after the Spanish government claimed ownership of it, and the matter ultimately reached the U.S. Supreme Court. Since then, the gold has been on show in numerous exhibitions all around Spain. Number 2. The MV Doña Paz. The MV Doña Paz disaster is regarded as the deadliest maritime accident to occur during a time of peace. On December 20, 1987, a ferry with Philippine registration collided with the oil tanker Mount Vector while transporting over 4,000 passengers. There was an explosion and fire that followed, killing 4,386 expected passengers, leaving only 24 alive. It was attributed to a lack of adequate safety and communication systems because it took 8 hours for the Philippine maritime authorities to learn about the tragedy. The fire caused significant damage to the ship, which is why it is now known as Asia's Titanic. Number 3. The MS World Discoverer. A Danish cruise ship named MS World Discoverer was built in 1974. In 2000, the ship sank while carrying people on a trip near the Solomon Islands after colliding with a rock. All crew and passengers were safely transported to another passenger ferry after an immediate distress signal was sent. The fact that so much of the ship was looted and wrecked during the Solomon Islands Civil War contributed to the failure of previous attempts to salvage the disaster. Since then, the ship has stayed in Roderick Bay, where it is now a well-liked tourist destination that can be seen on Google Maps. Number 4. The Vasa. The Swedish warship Vasa is thought to have been constructed between 1626 and 1628. On August 10, 1628, the ship sank 20 minutes into its inaugural trip after being struck by high winds and water. It was considered to be a huge embarrassment for the King of Sweden when it sank less than a mile into its journey. Several recovery attempts were made, but none were successful. The wreckage and its numerous treasures were not successfully retrieved until 1961. The ship's hull was discovered to be astonishingly intact, and thanks to some restoration work, it is now a well-liked tourist destination in Sweden, having had over 22 million visits to date. Number 5. The Queen Anne's Revenge. An 18th-century warship called Queen Anne's Revenge is well remembered for having been the vessel of the infamous pirate Blackbeard. The ship was initially used by the British Navy before being taken over by the French and subsequently pirates starting in 1717. Blackbeard utilized the ship for less than a year, yet during that period he won some of his finest victories. He grounded the ship in 1718 and made his escape by boarding a smaller ship nearby, evading capture by the British. In 1996, about a mile offshore from Atlantic Beach, North Carolina, the ruins of Queen Anne's Revenge were found. Over 250,000 items have been collected, and 31 cannons have been found so far. It is now included on the United States National Register of Historic Places as one of the few pirate ships to have been located. Number 6. The RMS Lusitania. Launched in 1906, the British ocean liner RMS Lusitania made 202 transatlantic voyages before being attacked and lost on May 7, 1915, by a German U-boat. 1,191 of the 1,962 passengers and personnel on board died. It shocked and outraged the entire world, and some people think that it played a significant role in persuading the United States to join the Allies in World War II. The shipwreck is severely deteriorating right now. It is in significantly worse shape than the Titanic because it had been in operation for 7 years previous to sinking, and much of it was damaged at the torpedo's initial burst. It is located 11 miles south of the lighthouse at Kinsale, Ireland. Many of the Lusitania's remaining belongings were retrieved during various salvage operations. Some of these things are now in private hands, while others are on exhibit in museums all around the world. Number 7. The USS Arizona. Built in the United States for the Navy, the USS Arizona was first launched in 1915. The ship was transported from California to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii in 1940 in response to the threat of Japanese imperialism. It served a variety of tasks, including accompanying President Woodrow Wilson to the Paris Peace Conference and being sent to Turkey during the Greco-Turkish War. The Japanese bombed the USS Arizona on December 7, 1941, and it exploded and sank. There were 1,177 deaths among officers and crew. On May 5, 1989, the wreckage was designated a National Historic Landmark. The shipwreck is still there and may be seen at the USS Arizona Memorial, which receives 2 million visitors a year. Number 8. The Mary Rose. Henry VIII's reign saw the commissioning and operation of the Tudor warship Mary Rose. It was launched in 1511 and participated in numerous engagements with France, Scotland, and Brittany before sinking in a conflict with the French in 1545. It sank in the Solent, not far from the Isle of Wight, and wasn't found again until 1971. It was saved in 1982. One of the most costly and ambitious projects in the history of maritime archaeology, the shipwreck's wreckage can now be seen in a museum in Portsmouth. Over 26,000 artifacts have been found, in addition to the ship's physical construction, and many of them are now on exhibit in public. About half of the crew members' remains have also been found, and bone analysis has shown that many of them had diseases like arthritis, rickets, and scurvy. Number 9. The RMS Republic. The RMS Republic, the star of billion-dollar wreck, was a steam-powered ocean liner that was built in 1903. The disaster didn't occur until January 23, 1909, at 5:30 a.m. It hit the Lloyd Italiano liner SS Florida just off Nantucket, Massachusetts, and sank the following day. 6 lives were lost in all, and the evacuation procedure was hailed as perfect at the time. The wealth that allegedly went down with the ship has been the subject of countless rumors and stories since it sank. The estimated value of the lost treasure ranges from $250,000 to $3 million. If it were to be discovered today, it might be worth hundreds of millions of dollars or possibly $1 billion. Grant and Martin Bayerl, a father and son team, are currently on the billion-dollar wreck with a mission to find the elusive treasure and take it for themselves. The wreckage is 250 feet underwater, and while much of it has decayed, the vaults where the purported wealth is said to be hidden seem to be in excellent condition. Number 10. The RMS Titanic. Almost everyone is familiar with Titanic and what happened to it. Many of us will be familiar with it because to James Cameron's 1997 mega-hit Titanic, which featured real footage of the mysterious wreckage. The apparently unsinkable ocean liner set out on its inaugural voyage on April 10, 1912, but just before midnight on April 14, it ran aground on iceberg and sank in less than 3 hours. It is sometimes regarded as one of the most illustrious and terrible shipwrecks in history because it claimed 1,514 lives. The shipwreck was divided in half, with each side laying within roughly a third of a mile of the other, and it wasn't until 1985 that a Franco-American expedition was able to locate it. The bow is in much better shape, with portions of the innards being remarkably preserved, but the stern section was discovered to be virtually entirely destroyed. There have been hundreds of artifacts recovered from the wreckage that may be seen in displays all around the world, including furniture, tableware, and even menus. Well, there you have our top 10 most famous shipwrecks of all time. Let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for our next exciting video.